All right, I'm playing my game now, and I have fixed up the friction, so I have it in both the horizontal and vertical directions, and you can probably see it in the video that the movement is kind of sloppy with the acceleration and deceleration in either direction. So this is, I think, a little bit more fun to play because it's more difficult. So now I want to address the quality of the code a little bit. So when we look in here, I'm in my go left, go right, my stopping and going up and down. We start to see that I have this very same point one all over the place. And so this is an indication that maybe this should be a variable somewhere because, let's suppose I decide to change the physics settings. Um, at some point, it's almost a certainty when I code like this that I will miss a change somewhere and I start to have some inconsistent buggy behavior, right? So let's make this a variable. Now, um, as I do this, go ahead and watch the entire video before you actually make any changes to your code because I'm going to show two different approaches and you should pick one really that fits the ultimate goal of your game. So neither one is correct. But I want to show you two different ways of handling this. So one way to do this is I'm going to go ahead and I did this already. I made a friction variable. All right, it's just one of my class constants, and I set it equal to 0.1. And so I can go ahead and I'm just going to let's see. Everywhere I see the 0.1, I'm just going to replace it with a reference to my friction variable. Here, hopefully I get everywhere. I got one there. Shows up 4 times here. And I'm going to do one more thing. You see I do this here. I do the -1 times. Negative friction, negating a variable like this, a lot of times it's difficult to see that that was intentional, and sometimes these negatives just sort of vanish in your code. And so I like to do -1 times some space around it. And I think this makes it very clear that the negation was intentional. And it also makes it a lot less um, easy to overlook when you're reading the code. So I'm going to change the -1 times the friction there when I'm um, decelerating, when I'm moving to the left, and do the exact same thing down here. I'll do -1 times. Okay. So now, right, everything still works the same. I have the same physics. Um, and I could go up here and, if I wanted to have the game a little bit less loose, I could change it to something like 0.2. All right. And, the physics play slightly different. Okay. It's a little bit less slipping and sliding when I move around. All right. So it's easier. This is a nicer approach because it's one change and it fixes the physics in every single direction. All right. So that's one approach. And this is great if, when you play your game, you want the friction to always be exactly the same. Okay. And if that's the case, then go with this approach. But I'll just show one more possibility. So I'm going to go down to my game class. And here's where I'm starting a level. And I create the player and all the games. And I've got the items commented out right now just so they don't get in the way while I'm demonstrating other things. But, I'm thinking, what if I want to eventually have a game where I have um, different levels? Okay, I don't want to have the same pattern of walls every single time. Maybe I want the game to progress through a series of different boards with things in different locations, and possibly I want to have different physics on every level. Like, so let's say I want to have one level that's on an ice, like an ice world or something like that, where everything's real slippery, um, and other levels where the starting and stopping is much more instantaneous. So in that case, maybe I want to tie the friction to the game level rather than just being a constant for all levels. And so another way of doing this is I'm just going to go in here and I'll just add a self.friction. equals 0.2 or whatever you want it to be. Okay, and now the friction is something that we can, rather than being a constant, right? The friction is a variable in the game class that could possibly change as the game is being played. And so I'm going to go up to my player, and instead of having referencing a friction constant, okay, I could do pass in a friction variable to every function. So let me paste that here, go in every one. And we'll refer to this friction constant that's passed in everywhere, or this friction variable that's passed in, this argument, rather than reference that constant up at the top. Replace them all. This one. Okay, and miss that one. So just double check that I get it everywhere. All right. Looks like it. And so now we don't need this constant up here anymore, so I could delete that if I wanted to. And oh, okay. And now it says the stop horizontal is required, missing a positional argument friction. And let's look at, what's happening. Okay, well, let's go here first, right? The stop vertical and the stop horizontal, they're expecting an argument to go in. So we're just going to have to go down to our controls in the process input section, right? And we've got this self.friction, which is in the game class. Let me copy that. And I'm just going to go into here and go left, go right, horizontal, up, down. And we'll take care of player 2. We'll do the exact same thing. And we're just going to pass the friction argument in to all of the motion controls. And so now, right, everything seems to work. And I'll check it out with players 1 and 2 and make sure everything's good. And it seems, all right, everything seems good. So this is just a different approach. And really, this is now just getting into a game design decision. And, so the decision would be, is friction something that you potentially want to have change as the game plays? And if that's the case, let's make it a variable inside the game class. Or if friction is going to be something that is constant throughout the game, throughout all games, then maybe we could just make it a constant setting up here, right? So either approach is valid, and you should just modify your game to fit the gameplay design that you'd like to have. All right, so I will stop this video here, but we're still not quite done yet, and I'll show you in the next video. There are some bugs with our physics when we hit walls and hit the edges of the screen. And I have, when I've been demoing the physics here, I've purposely avoided crashing into things so those bugs wouldn't show up yet. All right, but I'll save that for the next video.